Upamasseha tato palabhyate nanto nachadir nacha sampratita ashvatamenam suvirudamulam asanga shastrena dridena chitva tata padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuya tameva chadyam purusham prapatye yata pravritti prasita purani. Its form is not visible here, neither its end, nor origin, nor its basis. Having cut down the firm-rooted tree by the mighty sword of non-attachment, that goal is to be sought after, attaining which the wise do not return again. I take refuge in that ancient primeval being from whom streams forth the eternal creative energy. Stages of supreme knowledge. We meditate for a few moments on knowledge there which is within us. Om, peace, peace, peace. What knowledge is and who knows, that is the pursuit of every embodied being. This knowledge does not come easy. One has to struggle for it. Of course, it comes it's not completely true that you have to, but you will see how it comes to some special individuals. But you've got to pursue knowledge, sacrifice things for knowledge. And amongst all the sacrifices, the knowledge sacrifice is the highest. Yes, as the Bhagavad Gita says, it's a sacrifice of knowledge, jnana yajna. So the more you pour into it, the more you will receive it. So it is the growth of knowledge, the growth of our inner selves that we are going to speak about today. People with ideas of immediate gratification will dismiss this. Who's going to plod on, and who's going to take all the trouble pursuing this knowledge? And especially, even ordinary knowledge is difficult. You got to strive for it. Supreme knowledge. But then what happens is, we know the effects of ignorance is misery, discord, strife, and the whole family. Knowledge gives us what is the idea as, first, it's immortality. Then, the idea of unity in diversity, that we will see the uniting factor in everything. Everything is branching out from some central kind of hub. And it's bliss. Knowledge gives you bliss. So what is this knowledge sacrifice that we speak about? It is two categories. One is the field and one is the knower of the field. One is called the field, kshetra, because in this field we sow and reap the fruits of our labors. And it is here that we are engaged in the field. And it is objective, it can be manipulated, it can be done. But we forget another aspect of this, who is the knower of the field. So the Bhagavad Gita again says, there are these two categories, the field and the knower of the field. And know me as the knower of the field in all fields. Now Krishna says this, he's identifying himself as the Atman, saying, know me to be the knower of the field in all fields. Now this is the Sanskrit verses, Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetra gnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. Understand the knower of the field in all fields to be me. That which is the knowledge of the field and the knower of the field is true knowledge. This is my view. When he said, this is my view, all other views are based on partial knowledge or ignorance. So when you say supreme knowledge of what? Of the reality, of course. Because the quality of reality, of existence, is knowledge or consciousness. So we will see these stages of supreme knowledge from the lens of the yoga philosophy. I'll go through some of the characteristics of what this knowledge is, and then we'll go through those stages. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, the knowledge bereft of covering and impurities becoming infinite, the knowable becomes small. Tada sarva avaranam alope tasya jnanasya anantya tejam. What happens is now the knowable, the known objects are infinite before us. And we feel we hardly have any time to pursue all this knowledge. So knowledge is right now, in our present state, it's limited. And that which is supposed to be known is infinite. The whole thing is reversed. In this state of knowledge, supreme knowledge, the coverings to knowledge are removed. And knowledge becomes infinite. And the knowable, all the fields, everywhere, becomes infinitesimal, small. We see, like, in our lives, the problems are tremendous, they're huge. They're going to kind of finish us off. And we feel so constrained, we feel kind of shriveled, and we feel so small. And then once you start solving a problem, you feel you are big and the problems are small. This is the first, you can say, indications that you are growing in knowledge. Everything appears small and you appear large. So in this stage, in this state, the coverings to knowledge are removed. And what are the coverings to knowledge? We will see as we go. Plenty of coverings. It's not just one covering. There are, you keep on peeling them over and over again. So the commentator says, how is it described? Vast as the sky. Your knowledge becomes vast as the sky. That is, you become as vast as the sky, and everything else becomes small. Then there's something called in the yoga philosophy pratibha. Pratibhadva sarvam. That is true purity. There is a spontaneous rise of knowledge. We don't even need to go through this entire or the rigorous disciplines of yoga. One will get this knowledge directly just through purity. So this is called a pratibha. And how it is? It's like a kind of a great light that shines. And you know things through that light. You know the past, the present, and future directly. When you see a particular thing, okay, this is, my mind is constrained to view it only in the present form. With this light, you will know its entire sequence, its past, its present, and its future. And we don't need to have all the other faculties of reasoning, logic, or memory or anything. The knowledge comes direct to you, flashes there. This is another characteristic of knowledge. Then there is something called dharma mega samadhi, the ultra concentration where in this stage one becomes, as I say, a cloud of virtue. Like Seattle is always rainy most of the times. It rains. In this, the person becomes a blessing wherever she or he goes. Everywhere. There is a spontaneous, as they say, awakening in individuals. The people who come in touch with this person, they get this kind of constant. So this happens when you have found, there is a state which is called viveka khyati, that knowledge of the discernment between the soul or the field and the knower of the field. This becomes extremely clear. You know, it's a very lucid state of knowledge where you see everything as distinct. The whole categories of nature are completely separate, and you know the difference between consciousness and what is not consciousness. So this is called dharma mega samadhi. That is, it comes when the connections have been known between these two categories. Okay. And then what happens? There's something called Ritambara Prajna, knowledge that is filled with truth. You know, when we perceive things, we can see, okay, these are existent here now, but we attribute existence to all these things which are ultimately non-existent. In this Ritambara Prajna, filled with truth, one has that great light of enlightenment. So whatever the person says or does or thinks, it's filled with truth. Okay. Now these are the descriptions of the state of supreme knowledge. So where do we begin? We've got to begin somewhere. So there's a word, I want you to kind of let that word sink in, Samyoga. That is the junction or the joint. Now, according to Sankhya philosophy, we have this 24 categories of nature. We won't go into it. They are cosmic categories, and then that cosmic categories, then they become individualized. It starts with nature, and then from that nature comes mind, and from the mind comes the sense of I, and from the sense of I, the various faculties of the mind and all the other materials. Sri Ramakrishna is saying, no, the 24 categories of nature. He used to mention it. And there is, like I said, there is one aspect of consciousness which is not part of nature. Now, the closest, you can say, illustration given to this is they are not really joined, but they appear joined. How? It's like a mirror. You place a red flower in front of the mirror, and the flower is reflected in the mirror. Now, in many cases, in almost all the cases, the mirror thinks, I'm a red flower. So the soul reflects itself in the medium of nature, the subtle nature categories. And nature thinks, I am conscious. I am the doer of all things. So this is the joint, this is Samyoga. Now, what brings in this those two categories joining together? Well, the Yoga Sutras say it is ignorance. But it's not the ordinary idea of ignorance. This is the metaphysical ignorance, or you can say better, it's a non-knowledge. Now, what is metaphysical? Like I said, it's not the ordinary idea. It's I don't know what's behind this chair. Yeah, but I can know it if I go out and pull this chair out. That's not what it is. Metaphysical, you can say, avidya, or ignorance is, it's like the root. And from that root springs the idea of I. And from this I comes attraction and aversion and the fear of death. So it's like branching. The tree is kind of, the root is non-knowledge. From it is branching the big stem of I. And then from that I, is further branching out into attraction, aversion. These are the two natural, you can say, reactions of every living organism. And also the feeling of the fear of death. You'll pull back. It could have been simplified there, but then the tree has leaves and branches and twigs and fruits and flowers. This is where the impressions from these, you can say, categories, they come in. It comes from ignorance, from asmita, this universal sense of I. It's not an ordinary sense of I. This is pervading everywhere and everything. It's in your cell, and that's why you cannot find where is this I. Try to find where is this I, you'll not be able to find it. And this sense of I is in everything. Every living organism has a sense of I. And then the natural reactions are, you recoil from something or you're drawn to something. And then, of course, the fear of death. So these, when they play out, they create impressions. And these impressions are numerous. They're varied over and over. They kind of branch on and on and on. So this is the field, the kshetra. Okay. And somehow it reflects in the clear mirror of consciousness. And the clear mirror of consciousness now feels, I am all these things. And the soul, as it were, gets enmeshed with this. Why? It shouldn't, but yeah, because of that ignorance there. That's why they bring out this idea of ignorance. So the two categories also meant as a seer and the seen, the object and the subject. One who sees is different from what is seen. So the seer and the seen. So yoga says the seer is consciousness, it's pure. And this is constantly being modified over and over again. So these things are. And these modifications go on and on and on. These modifications are called painful. Because all modifications is pain. Birth is pain, death is pain, disease is pain, old age is pain, everything is painful. These are all modifications. So the Yoga Sutra said these are the painful, the kleshas that have to be eliminated. Now, eliminating that is a huge thing. So to get this idea, there's a category which is pure, the 25th category, which is there, and the 24 are the mutable categories of nature. Okay. Then what happens? Then there is something called knowledge of the primary knowledge. Okay, these are the two, you can say, broad categories of nature. So there is a samadhi called Viveka Khyati, as I mentioned. So you come to the very extreme, and then you understand the distinction between these two things. The moment you understand the distinction between two things, this process comes in 7 stages. Okay. The very first stage, as you're ascending to that stage of the knowledge of the distinction between these two, is the absence of all pains. This is the first thing. Tasya saptada yoga bhumi prajna. That is, his or her knowledge is in 7-fold highest ground. So these are the 7, you can say, stages how knowledge starts manifesting. The first is the absence of all pains. What is pain? You can take some painkillers and be all right. That's the pain of existence. Not because I didn't get this or that, existential pain, you say. So, as they say that we have been searching for this truth, and now we have kind of zeroed onto a particular place where we can see that this is where we need to start. Once you understand this, you're established in this place. There, as I said, there is an absence of all pains. It is here what happens is, you will know that the sun is rising for me. Life is moving around all over, trying to sustain me in my pursuit of knowledge. This is the first thing that happens. This knowledge the idea of knowledge keeps on growing and growing. As I said, the coverings are slowly being peeled back and is beginning to reveal. So this is the first stage, the absence of all pains. Nothing can ever disturb the yogi. Okay. Okay. The second stage is what has to be known is known. In many books, the second is placed first and the first is placed second. So what has to be known is known. I have known. Now you say, oh, I know the chair and the table. No, not like that. I have known the universe with all its modifications. Whatever modifications are there anywhere in this universe, I have known. Ordinarily, we say, yeah, I know this, I know that. But then in other areas, I'm ignorant of it. You know? So in this case, the person knows everything, internally and externally. Does he or she know the very specifics? He may not know the very specific, but it knows the ground from where all these changes emerge. So this is, so as I said, some books say that the first stage is one knows whatever has to be known. So there is something called knower, the act of knowledge, and the knowable. These are the three, the triad. If you have one, if you have an object, you will have to understand there's a person who knows, and what connects the object and the subject is the act of knowing. So in this case, what happens is, this person, the one who knows, has become so great that I know each and everything. Yes. Now, remember, this is universal knowledge, because when you talk about stages of supreme knowledge, it means supreme means it's cosmic, it's universal. It has nothing to do with your own individual field and the knower of the field. You are getting to know the knower of the field, and as the Bhagavad Gita says, it is in all fields. Now, when Krishna says, I am the knower of the field in all fields, there is no separate knower other than God. This is divine knowledge. Okay. I hope we are getting someplace. I try to make it comprehensible as much as possible. The third stage is the attainment of full knowledge. Complete knowledge. Really? What happened? Ordinarily, we know one thing, and that one thing leads us to the second thing, and the second thing leads us to the third thing, and then keeps on branching out. There is no end to our pursuit. Like when we do one thing, it leads us to another thing, and we get trapped. Ordinary knowledge also is something like that. You want to know one thing, and there you're trapped there. But in this stage, the attainment of full knowledge is the comprehensive knowledge, as I said, of God. So can we know that in its totality? Once you've broken the distinction between nature, the categories of nature, with all its painful modifications, you know this consciousness. This is the attainment of full knowledge. And what is it? Yeah, Swami Vivekananda says, omniscience will be ours. Oh my God. In the Sankhya philosophy, the yoga philosophy is based on the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya is one of the most ancient philosophies in the world. And here, they don't have a creator or a God in the sense. We don't need. Nature answers all your questions about everything. You don't need to bring in another creator. So these are it's called a philosophy where God is absent. There are many philosophies that they don't need a God to explain things. So when they said they have the attainment of full knowledge, the attainment of the soul as infinite. Okay? This is what happens. So they say, this is the person now is become free. The person has attained liberation in the sense of there's life in the body, of course, but then the connection has been broken. As I said, as Samyoga, the connection has been broken. Once and for all. There is no other. The fourth stage is the end of everything, end of all duties. You know, we think, oh, I must do this, I must do that, I will go here, see this, see that. It seems so innocuous and it's something natural. You keep a person there, that person needs to do something. The person is thinking or speaking or going about and performing some actions. All these things in the individual now, it's all over. Yes, it may sound kind of, oh, this. That person does not do anything anymore. The person is morbid, dead, what? The sense of I am the doer has gone off. So that's a fourth state. The fifth state is the mind itself, the mind with all its various functions, it kind of melts away. It gets back into its causes. And the example is given is like a boulder rolling down the hillside and falls down in the valley. That boulder is not going to come back again. So everything that you've ever had, that you knew, were all based on ignorance. That is like a boulder that rolls down. It's over for you. 6 stages, as I said, everything melts into its causes. Causes in the sense of the first, there is the aspect of nature. And as I said, from that nature, it's called Prakriti. From that, the second evolute of this nature is the cosmic mind. And from the cosmic mind rises the cosmic sense of I. And from the cosmic sense of I has emerged all this mind and intelligence and the sense organs, the motor organs, and everything that has ever existed in the phenomenal world has arisen from that sense of I and the mind. So in this case, here, everything is resolved back into nature. We felt that this belonged to my mind. Where's your mind? Oh, my mind was elsewhere. I was absent-minded. This is very simple, you have identified yourself with the mind and seen the mind is yours. Here the connection has been broken completely. It's over for you. So then what happens? Now we have this idea that we are searching for consciousness in the brain and consciousness in the body and consciousness. And without the mind, etc., or brain, there cannot be any consciousness. That's a materialistic idea of consciousness. But you will find that you exist without the mind. Can you exist without the mind? How do you know? It's knowledge there. What you know through the mind or the brain is very limited. I have seen people who have transcended the mind, and the mind has resolved back to its causes. So that person, when the person's mind has resolved back to its cause, what does the person? The person in the ordinary state of knowledge is identified with the entirety of creation. No longer that the person says, oh, this, my mind or my body, etc. No, it's all, he or she sees that vastness, that mighty tree that has been cut, the ignorance has been cut. So you see the reality there. And what happens? On the seventh stage, as we had mentioned in the categories of knowledge, there is the spontaneous knowledge that rises. That person is already free. Now this person is become, as I say, luminous. The mind disappears. And Sri Ramakrishna says, when the mind reaches the seventh plane, then the sense of individuality vanishes completely, and the person goes into samadhi. So Vijay is asking, what does a person see when he attains the knowledge of Brahman after reaching the seventh plane? Master, what happens when the mind reaches the seventh plane cannot be described. Sorry. So there's something called, when the mind reaches the individual mind is annihilated. Annihilated in the sense, you don't go and kind of kill it. It has already given up its identification with you. The mind itself, because the ignorance has been severed. So it resolves back to its causes. Goodbye. And then what happens? It cannot be described. But the person feels when ordinarily, when that person is not merged into that state, there's a slight kind of descent of that knowledge in that person's, you can say, old instruments. Like, and this that the person feels the entire universe is me. I am the universe. This is the highest point in this knowledge. When you say, I am this universe. But what about my old body? What body you had? Then you see you had plenty of individual bodies. The Bhagavad Gita also says, at the end of many births, a person attains this knowledge. That the knower of the field is in all fields everywhere. And that is the reality. Now, speaking about it from the, you can say from the yoga standpoint, I've given a kind of a skeletal idea of this. It's extremely profound. But what about the other stages, like in Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga also has something similar. Because their highest point is to be merged in the deity. That this is God here and then you merged. The next, the lower stage is you will see yourself as same. You as consciousness and God as consciousness. So it's called Sarupya and Salokya and Sayujya. It's a long way. So you will feel that God and you are no longer separate. The idea of separation has been that ignorance. That has gone. So I said, when you reach there, who do you tell and what do you tell? There will be no one else to tell, because you will see yourself as the all. That is the final stage of supreme liberation. And as we have seen in the very first here, that all the coverings of ignorance over knowledge has been eradicated, removed. Knowledge flashes. This is the supreme stage of knowledge. It's a blessed stage, and one day we will have to reach that stage of supreme. What about nature? Nature takes you through these experiences of pleasure and pain, trying to awaken you. As I said, there's a kind of a mirror. The rough analogy is a mirror, and there's different pictures here that are reflected in this mirror. Sometimes the pictures that appear in the mirror are gruesome, sometimes they are sublime, sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad. It's just trying to awaken that mirror. Wake up, and it'll show you something horrid. Oh my God, all painful. So nature works to awaken us. As the Sankhya philosophy says, bhoga and apavarga, through experience, and then it releases you. The soul is, as it were, the reader of the book, and pages after pages are turned. Who turns the pages? Not the guy who reads, but nature itself is turning the pages. And when the book is over, everything is over. So nature is taking us towards these, you can say, processes of knowledge. And then when we come to the very edge of the end of the book, when it happens, this is what happens. Stage by stage, the whole thing is over. Is it a good place? It's the best place. If you have doubts, no. What's the point in going there where all my other things will all disappear? Either way, they will all disappear. So it is the goal of all humanity. One day or the other, we will all go there. In fact, we are all going towards it. And in the process, combining, recombining, stampeding, and pulling and pushing and elbowing, but we are going towards that. There are some who would like to be in a hurry. They move ahead, and then they go to these processes. So even if you get this spontaneous purity, pratibha, that itself will give you that knowledge here and now. As I said, this appears as infinite. It will appear small, and knowledge will appear, which is now small, it will become infinite. But this is the distinction between these two categories, joined together by ignorance, that is severed. Then it's all over for you. Om, peace, 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 peace. Do you have any questions? And what question? Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, this is a phenomenal advertisement for doing the work. It also, for current state, feels like, oh my God, that's a lot. Is that just going for full Jiva Muktihood? Or is there like, well, maybe we can just take, maybe there's an upgrade for now of, well, if you want to just at least get out of samsara, you need to get to stage 2. Or do you need to go the full route out of samsara.
Yeah, we have a question here. It says that, yeah, the whole thing appears so daunting. So, is it possible? This is because you don't even have an inkling of the possibilities of your own soul. As you proceed, the possibilities, the power in your own soul becomes manifest, and this becomes child's play. Oh yeah, right now we are under the thraldom of matter. We think in terms of matter, we think in terms of objects, we think in terms of mind, etc. So we have become like contracted to a kind of a small, like a molecule. And then we are looking at the stars and saying, is it possible? And suddenly you start saying, hey, I have come down from those stars. I am that star. So once you begin, as you start, like Jivan Mukti and all these things, as you start progressing, this nature will become finer and finer, and you'll see more and more light coming through. And then you will see that it is possible. Also, as you begin, what happens, like, the momentum will carry you forward. Okay. So you don't have to. You start, and then the momentum carries you forward over and over and over. Okay.
Her question just made me think of how Sir Ramakrishna said, if you take one step, Mother
Yes.
takes 10 steps towards you.
Yes.
So you're not necessarily doing it alone, all of nature is helping you get there.
Yes. Yeah. The question is there. Like Sri Ramakrishna said, take one step towards God, God takes 10 steps towards you. Okay. Yes, that's a grace. But according to this philosophy, I was sticking to this paradigm of there's no God in Sankhya philosophy. And in yoga philosophy, God is there, they've accepted, but not the idea, the ordinary idea of God. It's the idea of Ishvara. It's there. It's okay. Meditate on that. But here it is more on your own. So as I was saying here, as the momentum grows, you get more and more bliss and bliss and bliss and bliss. How do you know you're progressing? By the amount of bliss that you get. And that is what draws you. So even we used to think like, oh my God, just I'll get away from the samsara, that's enough. Why bother about all these things? But then to bring in the ideas of dualistic religions, Sri Ramakrishna says, somehow, even by elbowing the guards or jumping over the wall, you meet the owner of that house. And once you go inside, in this case of Jadu Malik, then Jadu Malik will tell you, he'll take you around, give you a guided tour of this place. Like how many estates that a person has, how many government securities and bonds and this and that. But somehow get into it, get inside. So then he's saying, God himself will let you go through all these things. Or he might give you that spontaneous, you can say, enlightenment. There, it's all over. You don't need to go to the rigorous processes of meditation. What I wanted to more do is like emphasize this idea that the processes of supreme knowledge are this, and the characteristics of supreme knowledge this. Because nowadays, all over the world, this thing is, yoga is taken as a kind of, some kind of like a coffee. You go to the, I'm a yogi. No, this is what is a yogi. And so once you begin, when the soul just begins awakening, it won't sleep anymore. And then it will become restless to seek God. And then this entire process begins. Oh yes, you cannot stop it. You say, oh, let's take a break. Hey, no, it's not going to take a break. I mean, externally you will be doing everything, but internally all these changes are taking place. Okay, so have faith.
Seems that like there's this key like reversal where you're kind of moving in the opposite direction. Something happens in the momentum goes, all the force is going in the other direction. It kind of works on its own. That moment, does that have to be like a conscious choice that each individual makes, or it just happens?
No, it's a conscious choice. There are specific practices linked with the first 3 steps, first 3 stages of that. So you actually practice those things and you get it. Later on, it becomes kind of automatic. The resolution of the mind and nature, etc., that becomes. So there are specific practices. But then again, I said, once you get to that stage, the first stage, or even you begin, and then things start happening to you. These higher stages, you will need a guru. The first 3 stages, of course, you will need a guru to be. And then later on, you don't need. So that is it. Okay, there are no questions here also. We can. Oh yeah, okay.
So, giving up knowledge to reach God, the final stage, is there a day-to-day example we do where we give up knowledge to reach the highest?
No, because the sense of I is there. It's not letting you give that up. But as I said, in the sacrifice of knowledge, then you're saying, you must understand that what knowledge I have is, now this comes to the bhakti, that I offer whatever I have done and said and thought and offer it to God. And then God is the source of all knowledge. And then I get the results of more knowledge. And then I plow it back in and I get some more. Okay. The idea of giving up knowledge in the sense of small knowledge to attain the higher. You always see that if there are small things holding you down, you get rid of them, then you rise higher. It's always growth. When you give up the small for the big, you always grow. So if you're going to stay with the small, you're going to remain with the small. You'll be small. So that's where the idea of sacrifices comes in. So you must sacrifice the lower or the higher. And that's how it keeps on going higher and higher. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.